Have you received a speech therapy report and you have absolutely no idea what it means? Well, this video is for you. Today we're going to explain your speech therapy report. Don't go away. Hey guys, welcome back to Lingaroo, where language comes to life. I'm excited that you've joined us today. I don't know about you, but I get this question a lot from parents that have come into my clinic, both currently and for the last decade plus. Parents that come in maybe with a report in hand that they've received, and they have no idea what it means. Or as I'm going over a report with one of my parents in my clinic, the experience they have of this light bulb coming on and them saying, wow, nobody's ever explained this to me before. Both of those things have really shown me through the years that this is a piece that I think sometimes is often missing. So I wanted to take time today just to explain to you and help walk you through that report that you may have and to answer any questions that you might have about it. So we're going to kind of go through some of the different sections of that report that you might be seeing and talk about what it means and why it's important. Okay, that first top part of the report is typically just a developmental history or a history of possibly your child's birth or your pregnancy even, maybe medical history, including whether or not he or she has had the hearing tested, right? And all of those pieces of information are very important, just in a global sense, like, right, when we're trying to see, okay, yes, their speech and language might be a concern, but are there other concerns as well? The developmental milestones in other areas or other domains. How old was your child when she sat for the first time? Or when did your child start walking? So all of those pieces give us just an overall indication as to whether or not the overall general development is on track. And again, that hearing piece is also important. With every speech language concern, we always want to rule out hearing to make sure that your child's hearing okay and that's not also contributing to a possible language delay. So that's kind of what that part of the report is and why it's important. The next part of the report, hopefully, if it's not right next in line, at least it's in there somewhere, is more of a subjective kind of a behavioral or social observation of your child. What was he like in the waiting room with the other kids? Did he greet you when he came in? Did he make eye contact with you? Some of those more social ideas as to how well your child is interacting socially. Were there any behaviors seen such as tantruming or self-injurious behaviors? Those might be documented in there. Hopefully it's done in a very objective way, right? Just stating the behaviors that were made or that were observed. And that's not necessarily a place where we make any grand conclusions, but those are all pieces of the puzzle that when we look at your child as a whole, those are pieces that are also important as we look at their overall language and how they are communicating and how they are interacting in their environment. Another piece of the puzzle of this report might be what's termed as like an oral mechanism evaluation or the oral mechanism report. And that's a big terminology for just what is their mouth doing or what is their mouth not doing. Are they doing basic movements with their mouth? Are they able to purse their lips or smile wide? Are they able to protrude their tongue? Stick it out? Are they able to move their tongue side to side? I will tell you, this is just kind of my school of thought or kind of the camp that I like to hang out in. I am less concerned about those movements when they are outside of speech. Because I believe very strongly that the oral mechanism, as we call it in that section of the report, your mouth, your articulators, they are structures that are used for multiple functions, right? It's the same structures that are used for eating and drinking, that are used to make those non-speech movements, like rounding of the lips and sticking out the tongue, when it's not integrated into speech and language. But then I also firmly believe that speech and language and the use of those structures for that function is very different than whether or not they can do those activities outside of speech and language. Okay, a professor of mine that I love dearly and respect greatly, he referred to it kind of like, if you can think of like a basketball shooting a free throw, right? If I go into the gym and do this motion all day long, that's most likely not going to have any effect or any relationship to whether or not I can make a free throw. When it's integrated with the ball and I'm 30 feet or whatever it is from the goal and from the net, that integrated motion of trying to get the ball through the hoop is very different than me just standing there doing this all day. So that's hopefully a simple illustration of why I think those two things are different. And personally, I'm more concerned about, as it relates to speech and language, I'm more concerned about the integration of those activities and how the structures are being integrated when it comes to that function of speech sound production. Are they related? Yes, they can be, but we want to consider both. And in this part, it's just really important for you, again, to engage your therapist and ask them the questions of kind of the why. What is the why of this section of the report? How do the things that you found during this oral mechanism exam, how does that relate to speech and language? You always want to find a therapist that has a strong theoretical basis for what they believe. In other words, kind of that theory of this is what I believe about speech and language development, and this is how it is connected to and how it drives my therapy process, right? Another thing, you're going to want to find a therapist that is very solidly rooted and anchored in the most recent research. Right? So again, what does the most recent research say about this connection between this oral mechanism exam and these movements of our mouth outside of speech, and how it relates or not to connected speech, right? So again, this is a huge topic for a later video, but that's where we want to draw, that's what I want you to draw out of that section of the report, is kind of press into the why and to see if there truly is a connection. And if there is truly a difficulty that we're seeing in speech and language, and if so, we want to work on speech and language. We want to work on these motions and these motor activities in the context of speech. Okay, the next part of the report is hopefully where we get into some of the formal testing. And in this part, I just kind of want to address the question of what is a standardized test? We've all heard of them, right? We talked about them a lot in the video I put out about developmental milestones. If you haven't checked that out, you can go back and revisit that. But these ideas of standardized tests, they are tests or evaluation measures that are tested with hundreds and hundreds and hundreds, thousands of kiddos, and they give the same test in the same way each time to each individual child. And then someone much smarter than I comes in and uses statistics to kind of figure out, okay, what is this child doing, or how did this child perform on this test compared to other kiddos his age? So let's say your child is 2 years, 6 months. The test is going to compare his performance on that test to other kiddos who are in that same chronological age range. Or it might be 2 to 3, or 2 years, 2 months to 2 years, 8 months, or whatever it is. However the statistics break it down, they're going to look at your child's performance and compare it to other kids. Maybe in school you remember this idea of the bell curve, right? When you took a test and you were hoping for a curve or praying for a curve. And what that means is that it's going to kind of compare your performance on the test to other students in the class and kind of distribute them across this curve, where the majority of the kids are going to fall, the majority of the scores are going to fall in that middle range. Let me show you what I mean. So I'm going to do my best to draw the bell curve for us today to kind of talk about it. No judgment. There's a reason I did not start a drawing YouTube channel because it's certainly not a gifting, but I will do my best. So you have this bell curve here, and I'll draw the middle. Let's pretend that's the middle, right? And we've all kind of seen this, I'm sure. Whoa, here we go. Ish, right? Pretend those are even and pretend they're equally distributed. Okay, so on this bell curve, the middle score is 100. And then as you go this way, a child is doing really, really well. And as you come this way, the child is having more and more difficulty. The further we get kind of to the left of this middle score, the more difficulty a child is having. This score here of 85 and this score over here, let's pretend that's even, is 115. So if we come up, we come down here. Scores between 85 and 115 on most tests are considered average, okay? To give you an idea, if you were here at 90 and over here at 110, if you gave this test to 100 kiddos, 50 of those kids would fall somewhere between 90 and 110. So again, this fatter part of the curve, the majority of your kids are going to be falling within this middle part. So scores between 85 and 115 are considered average. Any score between 80 to 85 is considered a mild degree of difficulty. If your child scored between 70 to 80, they're having a moderate delay of difficulty. And any score below this, so 69 or below, your kiddo's having a pretty severe level of difficulty. Okay, so why is this important, right? As we look at your evaluation or how well your kiddo did on this evaluation, we want to look at, for me, it's more important to look at kind of this level of difficulty. 80 to 85, is it kind of a mild degree of difficulty? 70 to 80, yeah, they're experiencing some pretty moderate difficulty. Or that 69 and below, yeah, they're having a lot of difficulty. And the reason that's important is for us as the parents is to figure out how much support we need to give them, right? We don't know what we don't know. We don't know, if we don't know the degree of difficulty our kiddo's having, a lot of times we can't match that with the amount of supports and the amount of services that we seek for them. So for me, that's why it's important to look truly, honestly at how well our child is performing. Another thing I see often, and this might be you, sometimes when it's our first kiddo, we don't know, again, we don't know what we don't know, right? And you're kind of used to what your kiddo's doing, but it's not until you see him in a play group and compare him to other kids who are 3 that you think, oh, wow, that child's using full sentences, and you start to see those comparisons, and you start to realize how much difficulty your kiddo's having, and it kind of gives you a new perspective. So that's why I think this is important. That's why I think it's good to get these evaluations and to kind of look to see how much trouble they are having, and then match it with, okay, how can we get them as much support as they need to meet them where they're at. Okay, along those lines, the last thing I want to talk about is kind of this idea of labels. And this is really a personal preference, I think. I think our personalities as parents kind of dictate this. Each parent's a little bit different. I don't know about you, but when I'm sick and I go to the doctor and they say, oh, we don't know what it is, or it's viral, it'll just run its course. Oh, that's so frustrating to me, because I'm the personality type that I want to know what it is so I know what to do about it. Right? So for some parents, a label is helpful because, okay, at least we know what we're going to call this and how we're going to talk about it, and we're going to know what to do, and we're going to find a plan of action to address it. For other parents, they say, nope, I don't want labels on my child. I don't want that something to be given to him, a label that's given to him that may or may not ever go away. And I see that side of it too, right? Sometimes we want to give our children just the time that they need to develop and encourage them. And I absolutely agree with that as well. So for me, I kind of like to take the best of both worlds and kind of marry them together. To me, yes, labels can be important because they a lot of times are combined with services, right? Sometimes kids can't access specific services if they don't have a specific label as it relates to insurance or school services or things like that. So in that respect, I do believe that labels are beneficial and good, and sometimes it's good to know what to call something so that we can know how to address it. On the other hand, I also think, again, my take on things, I think it's more important to consider, okay, what is my kiddo doing? What are they not doing? And how can we structure our environment, our services, both at school and outside of school, at home, everything that we're doing so that we're all on the same page? What can we do? How can we structure his or her environment to support where he's at, the level of difficulty that he's having, and get them to where they need to be? What are they doing? What are they not doing? And how can we get them there, right? So as you think about these labels, again, I get it from both sides, from a parent that wants to know what it is and a parent that, let's hold off and wait. Both sides are true, and I think, again, if we can find some balance in there, that's always best. Okay, so guys, I hope this was helpful. I hope it helped to kind of explain or to answer some of the questions you may have had about a report that you may have been given. I would also encourage you, just as the parent, you are your child's best advocate, right? And what do I mean by that? You are the one that's gonna ask the questions. You're the one that's gonna seek the answers, and you're the one that can engage in these conversations and ask these answers until you get the answer that you're looking for, right? If you have a speech therapist and you're engaged with them, I would encourage you, pull them aside at the end of the session and ask them to explain these things to you. Ask them to kind of tell you what are they thinking in terms of the treatment plan and where are we headed and how can I as a parent get involved in this process, right? Your partnership with your therapist, your partnership and advocacy for your child is going to be one of the best indicators of how well they make progress and how well their speech and language develops over time. So don't be shy. Get involved, ask your questions, and really engage in this process for the benefit of your kiddo. So as I said, if you have questions today about your report, 2 things you can do: comment down below in the comment section or find our Facebook group and shoot me a message on Facebook. I've had great interaction with a lot of you already, and I'm loving that part of this. So shoot me a question and I will get back to you and I will answer your question. Also, again, if you have ideas for future videos, if you have ideas or questions that you have, put them in the comments below, because I take those very seriously, and those will help me to meet you exactly where you're at. If you haven't already, subscribe to this channel, click that bell icon so you'll get notifications every time we upload content. Share this with your friends. I know there are still lots of mamas and daddies out there that don't know about us. And then finally, you're going to want to check out this video if you haven't already. It's the one that we talked about developmental milestones, and it's a great one. So check it out. I'll see you next time at Lingaroo, where language comes to life.